Hello everybody, hi there. So I haven't actually played OMORI myself, but I know enough about it thanks to my patrons over at Nebula to talk about it today. The premise is this. It-S, a psychological horror RPG maker game centered around a young boy named Sony or OMORI, who along with his friends retreats into a fantasy world called Headspace, where they become superheroes. This other world acts as a safe haven for them, especially for Sunny, who suffers from crippling anxiety and depression. But when an evil creature known as the Headspace entity begins to awaken, threatening to destroy everything, that Sunny holds dear, he must confront not only the darkness within him, but also his traumatic past in order to save both the people he cares about and himself. The first thing that stands out about the game is its visuals. It has been praised for its unique art style, which consists of a stark duality between two worlds. On the one hand, we have the vibrant, almost psychedelic, dreamlike Headspace, a colorful, fantastical land full of whimsy that exists outside of time and rules, where Sunny can be carefree and feel loved. And on the other, we have the dull, melancholic real world, which is much more grounded and realistic, and often feels unsettling. In this world, we see rainy days, dark alleyways, and lots of close-ups of the characters' disturbed faces. Basically, it is clear that the creators want us to understand that these two worlds reflect the protagonist's inner turmoil. His mind imagines an escape from the depressing reality that he lives in, and the fact that Headspace looks like a fever dream, while the real world looks like a film noir, is a great way to visually represent that idea. I do think it's a stretch to say that there are parallels between this game and real life. When someone is struggling mentally, they often seek comfort in something that is more enjoyable for them, whether that be a hobby, a TV show, a piece of media, etc. And this can be a good thing if done in moderation. However, when someone becomes so mentally unwell that their coping mechanism starts to take over their life, and they cannot bring themselves to return back to reality, that's when things get bad. Sunny is a very extreme example of this. He is so overwhelmed by the weight of his guilt that he checks out completely, retreating further and further into his fantasy world. And we can relate to that because we've all wanted to check out at some point in our lives, right? We've all had problems that we would rather forget about, issues that we couldn't face even if we tried. And that feeling of having to keep moving forward despite the pain is a terrifying one. What if we just stopped trying? What if we let our problems pile up instead of addressing them? Well, the answer is that eventually it will all catch up to us. Sunny is a prime example of that. By refusing to accept the truth of his situation, he allows the darkness inside him to consume him and everyone he loves. So now, I want to talk about the core tragic event of the story without giving any spoilers. Sunny has a little sister named Mari. One day she was found dead in the forest, after being missing for 3 days. Everyone reacted differently to her death. While Sunny's mother became an alcoholic, his father isolated himself away in his study, and Sunny's best friend, Kel, became depressed and couldn't focus on anything else besides his training. Even the memory of Mari began to fade from everyone's minds as time went on. Only Sunny still remembered what happened, though, felt guilty and ashamed. He blamed himself for not protecting his sister, for not saving her, and so he retreated deeper and deeper into his fantasy world. Now, looking back, I think that this is a great commentary on how the human brain works. People often find it too painful to look at the truth, so they come up with elaborate ways to convince themselves that everything's fine when it's clearly not. Sunny's entire life in Headspace is based around lying to himself and everyone around him. His biggest fear is that if he admits the truth to anyone, then they won't believe him. And I think that this is a really interesting topic to explore, especially in a game centered around mental illness. So what happens next is that Sunny is confronted by his past, and he finds himself in the dark world. This place looks like a decaying version of Headspace, and is inhabited by manifestations of his deepest regrets and traumas. As he continues to move forward, the narrative gets darker and darker, until finally he reaches the truth of what happened to his sister. Without going into any spoilers, I think that the game does a good job of showing how it feels to be crushed by the weight of your own guilt. Sunny isn't even aware of how big of an impact his actions had until it is too late. And by that point, all he can do is cry and wish that he could go back and change everything. but he can't do that. All he can do is accept what happened and try to move forward from it. The path to confession is a long and difficult one, and it takes him a while to reach it, but eventually he gets there. Not only does he come to terms with the guilt he has been carrying for so long, but he also reconciles with his family and friends, admitting the truth to them and asking for forgiveness. The ending we get depends on whether or not we choose to forgive him. There are multiple endings, and each one explores different themes. The one that I thought was most interesting was the sweet root ending. It showed me that even though you can never undo what you have done, you can at least try to make amends with those around you and move forward from there. Life is hard enough as it is. So I think it's as best to not add unnecessary guilt onto ourselves by blaming ourselves for things that we had no control over. Sometimes things happen, and there's nothing we can do about it except move on. Of course, this is easier said than done. Well, and if you're someone who is struggling to forgive yourself for something, then OMORI is a great game to play. It will help you understand that you're not alone in this, and that many people go through the same thing. Something else that I want to touch upon is how relatable the game is. Many people have talked about how the characters in OMORI feel like real people, almost as if they were people that you knew growing up. This is probably due to the fantastic writing of the characters. The dialogue is very natural, and every character has distinct personalities that set them apart from one another. We can all agree that this is true. Sunny is the type of person that you would want to be friends with. He's kind, caring, funny, and always willing to lend a helping hand to those around him. Basil is the shy and quiet type who loves nature and photography. Kel is the goofy class clown who always knows how to make people laugh. Aubrey is the tough and confident leader, who can be a bit insensitive at times, but has a heart of gold. Hero is the intelligent and level-headed one, who is always able to solve any problem with his knowledge and quick wit. And Mari is the beautiful and graceful one who is loved by everyone. These characters are so well written that it's easy to fall in love with them and root for them no matter what. Finally, I want to end this video by talking about the lessons that can be learned from OMORI. The game has a lot of hidden meanings that are left for the player to discover. But I want to share a few thoughts with you guys. First of all, the game teaches us that facing our fears is the only way to overcome them. Sunny spends years running away from the truth, but eventually he realizes that he has to face it head-on if he ever wants to move forward. Secondly, the game shows us that reality is not always what it seems. Our minds can play tricks on us, and sometimes what we see is not what we get. Finally, the game reminds us that honesty and communication are key to healthy relationships. If we are struggling with something, it is important to let our loved ones know so that they can help us through it. Thank you so much for watching. Please subscribe if you liked the video. Bye.